That tree is coming down today. I still hear those words sometimes, in that voice. She's the HOA president who moved to the top of our subdivision 2 years ago. I came home from Denver to find her grand idea already carried out. What was once my family's oak was now a stump. A pale circle of cut wood the size of a kitchen table, sitting in a mountain of fresh sawdust. Let me back up. My name is Owen Kessler. I live on 11 acres at the northern edge of Falcon Ridge, a gated community that was built on land my family used to run cattle on. My grandfather sold most of it in the 80s. He kept one piece, the Kessler oak, 41 feet tall, a canopy almost 90 feet wide, right at the edge of my property line, close enough to the road that half the subdivision drove past it on their way to work. I didn't plant it. My great-great-grandfather did. He dropped that acorn into the soil in 1874, the same week his first daughter was born. Weddings under it, funerals under it. A tire swing 3 generations of kids wore smooth in the bark. In 2019, a state inventory crew came out. They measured the trunk. They measured the canopy. They put the Kessler oak on the official state registry. Champion Burr Oak, one of only 4 registered champion trees in the whole county. They bolted a small bronze plaque to a stone at its base. Most of my neighbors walked past that plaque 100 times. I don't think a single one ever read it. 2 years ago, Renata Voss became HOA president. Not long after, she and her husband broke ground on a new house at the top of Ridgeline Court, the highest lot in the subdivision. A dining room made entirely of glass facing the valley. From her kitchen table, my oak's canopy blocked 40% of her view. She called it a green wall. I wasn't in the meeting where she said that. She did come find me once. Community barbecue. Summer, her house was finished. Plate of ribs in her hand. Big smile like she was asking about the weather. Haven't you ever thought about having that oak thinned out a little, just to open things up? That tree's not getting touched, I told her. It's older than this whole subdivision put together. It's registered with the state. She smiled the way people smile when they've already decided your answer doesn't change anything. I figured you'd say that. I didn't think about it again. I had cattle to move, fences to mend. A trade show in Denver, same week every March for 9 years running. I left on a Sunday morning. I came home the following Saturday, and the oak was gone. A wood chipper truck blocked my driveway. Stump grinder behind it. Where the canopy used to spread out over the road, just open sky now, and pale cut wood, and sawdust that still smelled like green oak. I stood in my own driveway for a long time. I couldn't make myself walk closer. Then I looked up the hill. Renata was standing on her own porch, watching me. I drove up to her house. "What did you do?" "Board authorized a hazard tree removal," she said, calm, like she was ordering coffee. Significant dead wood in the upper canopy. Liability risk to the road. That tree was inspected 2 years ago. It was healthier than most trees on this street. Things change, Owen. We had it reassessed. Our arborist found extensive decay. You had my tree cut down while I was out of state, and you didn't call me once. You weren't reachable. She was lying. My phone had full signal all week. Nobody from the HOA tried to call, text, or email me a single time. That tree is on the state registry as a champion oak, I said. You needed a county permit to touch it. You needed the county forester's signature, not a board vote. Something flickered across her face. Not guilt, more like the look of someone doing math in real time and not liking the numbers. The board has authority over hazard vegetation, she said. I'll have our attorney send you the documentation. I didn't wait for any attorney. I went to the county extension office the next morning. I didn't know it yet, but inside that office, behind a desk, in a file I had never seen, something was waiting for me that was going to cost Renata Voss and 70 families in Falcon Ridge $3,800,000. Stick around. The clerk pulled up a file I'd never seen. Took her less than 2 minutes. She looked at me across the desk. "Owen," she said, "this tree still legally exists." I almost laughed. I had a stump the size of a kitchen table in my driveway. Then she showed me why she meant it. The Kessler oak had been on the state registry since 2019, state champion Burr oak, which meant, under county ordinance, it sat under a heritage tree protection designation. Heritage trees can't come down without three things: a licensed arborist's hazard assessment filed with the county, a mandatory 30-day public notice period, sign-off from the county forester's office. I asked if any of those had happened. Nothing. No permit, no notice, no report. As far as the county was concerned, the oak was still standing. "Someone cut down a protected champion tree with 0 permits?" she asked, mostly to herself. She reached for her supervisor. I spent that afternoon doing what I should have started the moment I saw that stump, documenting everything. I photographed the stump from every angle. I measured its diameter with twine and a tape measure, 5 feet across. I photographed the tire tracks gouged across my lawn. I photographed the wood chips piled at the edge of my property. I pulled up old photos from my phone, birthdays, my daughter's wedding reception, last Thanksgiving. Every single one had the oak in the background. Then I went to my barn office and pulled down the state registry certificate my grandfather had framed and hung on the wall. The bronze plaque number was stamped on it. I went outside and found that plaque lying in the grass, knocked loose from its stone. Then I called Priya Okafor. Priya was a land use attorney out of the county seat, the kind of lawyer HOAs don't want to see coming. She'd built her career on 3 kinds of cases: trespass, unauthorized tree removal, and HOA overreach. She'd once told a reporter that most people price out a tree by thinking about firewood, not what a court actually awards. "Send me the deed," she said, "the registry certificate, every photo you have, and find out who the HOA hired to do the cutting." That part wasn't hard. The tree service truck had a company name stenciled on the door caught on a neighbor's doorbell camera. Priya subpoenaed their file inside 2 weeks. What came back made me sit down. A signed work order. From Renata Voss, personally. Dated 11 days before I left for Denver. A full week before I ever left town. The plan to destroy a 150-year-old tree was already in motion while I was still home, sleeping 200 yards from where she was arranging it. The work order called it board-approved hazard removal, homeowner notified. I had never been notified of anything. Then, Priya pulled the HOA's own board minutes. 2 months earlier, Renata had gone before the board and presented what the minutes called a landscaping visibility proposal for the Ridgeline Court View corridor. No mention of a hazard assessment. No mention of my name. No mention that the tree sat on private property that had never been part of the HOA to begin with. She got the board to approve a vague request, without telling them what they were actually approving. Then Priya found the arborist report. The report Renata promised me. 2 pages long, unsigned, undated, issued by a real company. Priya called the company to confirm. They had never inspected my tree. They had never prepared any report for Falcon Ridge HOA. Someone had built the document from a template and slapped a logo on it. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after Priya told me that. The room was very quiet. "This isn't a mistaken hazard call," she said. "This is a fabricated document used to destroy a legally protected tree that was never a hazard to begin with, on land that wasn't even the HOA's to manage." We needed a number. Priya brought in Desmond Price, a valuation expert insurance companies hire when million-dollar trees die on commercial property. He'd come in from 2 counties over. He spent most of a day beside the stump. Tape measure, increment borer, laptop open to formulas I had never heard of. "Most people think a tree is worth what a landscaper charges to plant a new one," he said, looking up from a magnifying loupe. "That's not how a court values it. The court counts species, age, trunk diameter, canopy spread, location value, and registered or historic status." He counted rings on the stump face, cross-referenced the county's 2019 core sample, 151 years old, confirmed, 61-inch trunk, 90 feet of canopy, state champion status, all on record. Desmond's preliminary number? Just under $900,000. That was the tree. Before the law got involved. Priya walked me through one piece of state law most people never hear about until it's too late for someone they love: the timber trespass statute. It says, if someone cuts down a tree on your property on purpose, the damages aren't just the value of the tree, they're 3 times the value. The forged report. The predated work order. The timing arranged around my trip. All of it pointed to one word a court would use: willful. If a jury agrees this was deliberate, Priya said, the base value triples. And that's before heritage ordinance penalties. And that's before punitive damages for the fake report. 3 weeks later, I signed the demand letter. Priya and I sat at my kitchen table and read it out loud before we mailed it. It laid out the deed, the champion registry certificate, the county's confirmation that no permit had been filed, the fabricated arborist report, the work order that predated my trip, Desmond's valuation, the total demand, factoring the treble and the heritage penalties, $2.9 million. What Renata did when that letter landed what she did to 70 families in our neighborhood is the part of this story that still makes my blood run hot. The same day my demand letter landed, an email went out to every address in Falcon Ridge. Subject line: HOA facing unreasonable demand over routine tree maintenance. Renata was asking every family in our subdivision to approve a $2,400 per household emergency legal assessment to defend the community against what she called an excessive lawsuit. She wanted 70 families to pay for her mistake, before any of them had seen a single piece of evidence. She called the meeting for that same week. Inside the clubhouse, the one most of us had paid dues to build ourselves over the last decade. I walked in at 6:55 with Priya, folder under her arm, 70 homeowners, folding chairs, and a slideshow already glowing on the wall behind Renata, showing a picture of my stump captioned, Vegetation Management Community Safety First. Renata saw us first. This is a private HOA matter, she said. I own the land your tree crew trespassed onto, I said. Every person in this room is about to be asked to pay for a decision they were never told the truth about. Priya didn't say a word. She put the county's confirmation letter on the projector. No permit filed. No notice period. Heritage designation still active when the tree came down. A man near the back raised his hand. Renata, I thought the county approved this. The county process is complicated, she said. Our arborist assessed a genuine hazard. Priya pulled up the next slide. The so-called arborist report, side by side with the company's written statement. They had never inspected the tree. They had never written the report. The room went quiet. Not polite, quiet. The kind of quiet 70 people make when they realize, at the same moment, they've been lied to. Then Priya put up the third slide, the work order. 11 days before I left town, a full week before Renata had ever claimed to discover any hazard, with her own signature at the bottom authorizing the crew. A woman on the board, Carla Whitfield, the treasurer. A soft-spoken, retired teacher who'd been on the board longer than Renata had been in this neighborhood. She stood up before Renata could recover. I wanted on record, Carla said, that this board approved a vague landscaping proposal. We were never shown a hazard report. We were never told this was Owen's property. We were never told it was a registered champion. 2 more board members said the same thing, one after another, each one putting distance between themselves and Renata in real time. This meeting is being derailed by outside interference, Renata said. She'd gone white around the mouth. Nobody interfered with anything. I said, You cut down my family's tree while I was out of state. You forged a document to justify it. And now you're asking 70 families to pay your lawyer. That isn't interference. That's just what happened. I walked out before she could answer. She never got to her prepared remarks. The emergency vote never happened. Carla Whitfield made a motion to postpone everything pending independent legal review. It passed, almost unanimously. A week later, things got worse for Renata. And this was the part Priya had been waiting for. She subpoenaed Renata's phone records. 3 text messages, back to back. First one, to her husband, 9 days before the tree came down. Getting the oak handled while Kessler's in Denver. Should be done and cleaned up before he gets back. View's going to be incredible for the open house. Second message, a screenshot of a real estate listing draft for her own home with valuation notes attached. The bullet point that mattered read, Unobstructed Valley View value add of nearly $180,000. Third message, also to her husband, 10 days after the cutting. Drive looks great. Best decision we made this year. I sat in my truck for a long time after Priya sent me those screenshots. She hadn't ordered a hazard removal. She'd ordered a view, timed around my absence, paid for indirectly by an HOA she'd convinced to approve a vague landscaping line item. justified afterward with a paper report that didn't exist until she made it exist. The HOA's insurance carrier sent a reservation of rights letter inside 2 weeks. Their policy may not cover intentional acts. Each board member, one by one, put out a statement saying they'd never actually approved the decision. The tree service company settled separately, the moment they realized there was no real arborist report and their crew had cut a protected tree on private land without checking anything. The case went to mediation 7 months after the stump first showed up in my driveway. Desmond's final number, $1.27 million, as the tree's actual value, with the county's official heritage multiplier folded in. Because the mediator found the conduct clearly willful, the forged report, the predated work order, the timing, the treble damages kicked in automatically. Then the heritage ordinance penalty, then punitive damages tied to the falsified report. Final number, $3,800,000. The largest tree-related judgment the county had ever recorded. Renata resigned as HOA president the week it was signed. 2 board members filed a separate complaint against her for exposing the association to liability it never agreed to. Her own homeowner's insurance refused to cover her share of the judgment. They cited intentional misconduct. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for what was mine, to be respected. And it wasn't. So the number did the talking. Here's the part nobody in Falcon Ridge ever knew. Back in the 90s, my grandfather had taken a small handful of acorns from the Kessler oak and started them at a nursery 2 counties over, just in case. Fire, disease, age, anything. 6 saplings, each one a direct genetic descendant of a tree that had stood on that hill since 1874. The spring after the settlement, I planted the oldest and strongest of those saplings in the exact spot where the stump had been. The stump ground down, the hole reseeded with grass, 4 feet tall. The day I put it in the ground, nothing like the giant that used to shade half my driveway. It won't be a champion tree in my lifetime. Maybe not even in my daughter's. But it's growing in the same soil, from the same roots, with the same bronze plaque cleaned up, rebolted to the same stone sitting at its base again. Renata's dining room still has its open valley view. Every morning, if she looks past the glass and down the hill, she can watch a small oak tree grow a little bit taller, a little bit wider, 1 ring at a time, right where the old one always stood. She thought she was cutting down an obstruction. She was actually looking at the most expensive tree stump in the county's history, and now, quietly, patiently, at the tree that's going to outlive every single person who was in that clubhouse the night the truth came out.